What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Shape the Podcast. I uh, I hope this is broadcasting to where I need it to go to, um, because yeah, I'm always worried of that. I don't know. Like, I hope I have it set up right, and that Streamyard just hasn't totally screwed everything up. Um, Speaking of Streamyard, those of you who follow me through Streamyard, who follow Talking Beards through Streamyard, if you could do us a favor. Um, Go over to the Talking Beards YouTube page. Give that a like, subscribe to it, um, because what we are going to be doing is transitioning over to YouTube, and that will be the official home for not only Talking Beards, but Shape the Podcast, Art Assault with Josh Bethel, who did my design up in the corner here. Right, and also did my background. So yeah, so go over to the Talking Beards YouTube page, like and subscribe to it, because that will be the future home of everything to do with the podcast that we do. Hey, what's up, Don Shea? I see you, sir. Well, welcome. Glad to see you on tonight. Well, hey, hope you've all had a great week. Hope you all had a great past weekend. My week started off okay. All I can say is get second opinions if you have air conditioning issues, all right? Because our AC went out. We thought it was going to be a bad compressor. It turned out that it wasn't a bad compressor. It was a bad Kickstarter, all right? What this little thing does right here, it just prolongs the life of your compressor, all right? It just makes it better. So took it off. The AC works fine now. Needless to say, a wonderful news. It saved us over $4,000 of money that we did not have to get our AC fixed. So thank you to an awesome air conditioner company that came out and just showed me the innards of the air conditioner, and everything like that. But yeah, hey, what's up, Justin? What's up, guys? By the way, I'm dumb. I should use this more often, because in 2 weeks I'll have on Justin Cheatham. He'll be on the podcast. But I also that night I double booked. I also double booked Scott Turner to come on. So you might get a double podcast that night. You might not. It just depends on my work schedule. Because my work schedule is going to be changing. There will be some Friday nights where the podcast is going to be recorded, and I'll just air it on Fridays, because I accepted a position for a company that I'm glad to work with. That unfortunately, it's retail. So yeah, my work schedule may be changing because of that, and I might not be doing live podcasts on certain Friday nights. But I don't want to waste any time. That this guy I've looked forward to having on since I heard him on Talking Beards. He is an awesome dude. I can tell you his aurora, his presence is amazing. Just talking to him before the podcast came on, I am now blessed to know this guy. Tonight's guest is going to be PJ Charles. PJ Charles is going to be not only coming on to talk about his whole story and where he is today, but he's also going to be talking about his organization, Straight Street, which helps the homeless down in Orlando, Florida. Those of you who saw the Talking Beards episode a couple of weeks ago, almost a month ago, will know why I'm having this guy on. If this guy doesn't inspire you to do better in your community, then I don't know what, So without further ado, I'm going to bring him on. Let's get this show started. Mr. PJ Charles, everybody. What's going on, sir? How are you?
Hey, Kyle, how are you? Man, you talked me up so much.
I mean, hey, I just
hope I don't disappoint.
I just talked you up because, like, literally, as I told you before, again, you're what you did on Talking Beards and talking with those guys, like you touched me, like you got me in the heart. But I mean, here's the thing: it's not hard for people to get me there, right? But because I'm a very like emotional guy,
Right.
but like you got me there. You touched a part of my life and a part of other people's lives on that episode, and you brought some good stuff. By the way, yes, Justin Cheatham, he is a great guy. Yes, and we'll get to how you guys know each other and all that stuff here at the end. But first of all, for the people that are watching and the people that will watch us later, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll just get back in. We'll get into your story, man.
Sure. So my name is PJ Charles. I am, well, the reason why we came to be is because I'm the founder and director of a homeless ministry called Straight Street Orlando. We've been serving the hungry and homeless in our city for 15 years this September. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Every time I say that out loud, it gives me pause, It's been the greatest thing I've ever done in my life besides marrying my wife. She's an
There you go.
So.
she didn't hear that. You should say it louder for her. All right.
So, and then aside from that, I'm also a pastor at a church called Genesis Church here in the east side of town of Orlando. I've been a pastor on staff at that church for 10 years. Prior to that, I was a faithful heathen.
Hey, nothing wrong with being a faithful heathen at times, all right?
I was dedicated, let me tell you. And then I'm also a what we call a registered mental health counseling intern. So I am pursuing licensure from the state of Florida and should be completed with all of those processes by October, November of this year.
Nice. So let's get into the pre PJ Charles as we see him today, when he was just a little heathen.
Okay.
Because like we were talking earlier, you're not from Orlando, is that correct?
Right. So I was born and raised in New York. My parents are first generation American. They came from the island of Trinidad.
Nice.
And so, like most islanders do, New York is the place where they kind of just, at least in the 70s, that's 60s, 70s, that's what they were doing.
It still happens today.
Right. Populating New York, right?
Yes.
So I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens. I was as nerdy as they come. I mean, if you any idea that you could wrap your mind around about what a nerd would be, it was me. It was me. I wasn't athletic. I wasn't popular. I was an avid reader.
Right.
Just trying to stay below the radar so I didn't get bullied.
So what was your like? All right. So what was your? Because now there's different genres of nerds.
Right.
What was your genre of nerdism?
Ooh. Okay. I was the like Urkel kind of thing. I was that guy. I was awkwardly dressed. I could not play sports. I was flat-footed, and in the 70s, that meant you had to wear like metal plates and like boxy shoes. Couldn't play. Couldn't join in PE. Couldn't do any of that stuff. All I did was read. I was a huge Stephen King fan in my middle school, high school years. Just read tons of books. I would read books on Marxism. Anything that anybody would give me, I would read.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of time to do it because I didn't have a social
life. That's because you. Now, did you not have a social life because you didn't want to have a social life, or?
I wasn't allowed. I wasn't invited to the stuff, man. It was just I have a twin sister, and she was the exact opposite of me.
I am also a twin, by the way.
Are you?
Yeah. We're fraternal. completely opposites.
Yes.
I'm talking about from day and night. Yeah, man.
My sister and I are the same exact way.
And by the way, I also didn't want to do PE, so I joined the band. Okay. So I was a band nerd. Okay. That's why I asked what type of nerdism you were. Because
I wish
there were different levels.
Nerd. I wish the option was available. I am a huge lover of music, but not because I can play it.
Hey,
so my oldest son actually is a guitar and bassist,
nice.
And going to college for it in the fall.
Dude, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went through that like at what age? Like what made you decide that you need to become a better person? Let's put it that way.
So the funny part about it is that I realized that I wasn't well liked and welcomed in a lot of different places, but I didn't necessarily have a problem with who I was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I liked me.
Yeah.
But about the time I got into like my junior year of high school, I got my first job. I got contact lenses. I started shopping in the East Village in New York. I had like an eclectic style.
All right. I was gonna say, is that like the East Village? Is that like where like the artsy fartsy people shop?
Yes.
I got you.
If you're a rock fan, CBGB's was down there.
All right. Nice.
Lots of live music, lots of great restaurants, lots of places to shop. NYU area, NYU, Washington Square Park, like all that kind of stuff like that. And so once I started feeling a little comfortable in my own skin, which was difficult as well because my style didn't necessarily reflect the culture I was growing up in, right?
All right.
And so I was very, very just, I'm a huge fan of music. I loved rock. I loved all kinds of genres of music. So my style kind of reflected that,
What was your go-to genre though?
My go-to genre was coming out of high school was grunge.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say you look like you were totally into like the Seattle grunge scene.
100%.
Mixed with a little like Chemical Brothers-esque as well. Like
so my very, very first concert was Sinead O'Connor. I saw her in New Jersey.
Nice.
And in my very next concert after that was Metallica and Guns N' Roses with Faith No More opening at Yankee Stadium.
All right. Wow, man. Talk about two different genres.
Control. Yeah. Like I lost my mind. I was throwing up before Metallica even got on stage.
Is that because you drank so much or because you
drank the whole way there? Yeah. And then like a lot of Grateful Dead, Pink Floyd, Zeppelin, a lot of old R&B,
right.
A lot of calypso reggae that was just cultural, kind of. Just loved exploring different types of music. All of that has molded me, But when I got to college, I lost my mind.
All right.
Partly just growing up in a sheltered household, but also just finally being around a group of people who actually just liked me for me,
Like when you say sheltered, was it sheltered because of religion or was it sheltered because of like your parents just didn't want you to do certain things?
Yeah, my parents were just strict, and they didn't necessarily want us. It's going to sound horrible, but they didn't necessarily want us immersing ourselves in the culture of where we were growing up. So we grew up in a Black neighborhood. It was a middle class area, but it was rapidly declining, coming out of the 80s into the 90s. Just a lot of bad elements out there, and they just no, you're not going. I want to go hang out. Nope. We don't
want you to be a part of that. Yeah.
Right. Just very, very strict. And so, I got to college and just started mixing with different types of people, exploring different opportunities. Of course, alcohol was a huge part of that. A lot of weed smoking, dabbled in, hallucinogenics, cocaine, like
cocaine. Me and cocaine were like this.
Oh yeah, well, that's a huge part of my story. So
I got hooked. I got hooked very fast on cocaine.
Yeah,
right? No other drug, right, hooked me as fast as cocaine did.
Oh man, it was killing me. It was wiping me out. And as a bartender, it was, it's pretty much, bartender's aid. It's how you survive a shift. Have a little too. And so
I was a club DJ at a point in my life, and that's how I survived.
Yeah.
But I'm also the only person that I know that could fall asleep after doing an 8-ball of cocaine.
That's scary.
Yes. I mean, like I would do that much, and of course I was drinking on top of it, but I would do that much cocaine that I would be like, I gotta go like pass out.
That's frightening.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Good for you. I wish I could say that.
Yeah, because everybody knows that cocaine does not make you pass out whatsoever.
It is not. Yeah, it is not great. Yeah, the come down could be torturous. Yeah.
Yes.
But New York City wasn't good to me.
I remember those.
Yeah.
I remember the coming down off of it. Just standing in the shower. Just letting your nose just as raw as it can be, just let it bleed out. I remember those days.
It's crazy how we can really glorify those days.
Yeah.
And
we shouldn't really. In all honesty, no.
I think the more we really pay attention is the more you start to like really express gratitude just for being here, man.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, God doesn't save everybody. And he's got his reasons for that.
Yeah.
But then he also has his reasons for why he does save certain people.
Yeah, because everybody has a story and a purpose.
Right.
So some people don't ever get to see that, and some people don't really ever get to realize that.
Right.
Because they don't want to make the changes that they need to make to be that person.
Right.
So, but by the way, Mr. Don Shea, you are correct. Yes, he is an awesome gentleman. Thank you for that. So, dude, so continue with that, man. I think that's awesome.
Okay, so I'm in college. I'm actually studying architecture.
All right.
And
I could also see that,
Yeah, but I didn't want to be an architect.
That's what you thought you needed to do.
Well, because I in high school they said, "Oh, you could draw. You should do architecture." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Now you change majors at the drop of a hat. Back then it was a lot of weight to a decision like that. So so I pursued architecture up until I couldn't do it anymore.
All right.
And the reason I dropped out a semester before I was going to get my bachelor's degree in architecture. And
oh wow!
Yeah,
that close.
I was close.
Did you drop out because you knew that's not where you need to go, or were you still in that mindset of I gotta have what I had previously?
No, I knew that's not where I wanted to be. The problem was I took a class called professional practice, which they really should give you in the beginning of your school, not towards the end when you're ready to graduate. And professional practice taught me that architecture is not what I want to do for a living.
Yeah.
You basically graduate and then you're just doing somebody else's work, their shop drawings, their elevations, their plans, and you're just doing shop drawings for years until somebody decides to give you a shot. And I was like, that's not going to be me. And at the time I was in the aquarium industry. That's what was paying my bills.
Oh, wow.
I worked and managed an aquarium store in Flushing, Queens. It's called Fishtown, USA. And I knew so much about fresh and saltwater fish and corals. And I was a salesman. And I was good at it. And my boss said, I will pay you more than anybody will pay you out the door when you graduate if you just stay with me and help me run my 2 stores.
All right.
And so I did. And we had 2 stores, one in Flushing, Queens, one in Midtown Manhattan. And I bounced between both stores. Loved it. Loved the opportunity to be living the city boy life, you know.
Yeah, because I'm sure that you being in that industry, you know, because back then, fish was a luxury. That was a luxury item.
Big time.
Because you had those guys and girls that had the big aquariums tanks, you know, like back then you couldn't just go to a Kroger and buy a guppy.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Or a Walmart and buy a guppy.
You had to go to a specialty shop and you had to learn how to keep it alive. And you had, you know, and it was an investment. I mean, people were dropping thousands of dollars in their fish tanks. You know? And it wasn't a gimmick. Like I really cared about keeping this livestock alive and teaching people how to do it, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And I dropped out. I was doing that. Was living on my own. You know, I left home when I was about 17. And even though I was in college and doing those types of things, I never really looked back. I was confident in who I was. I was confident in what I was doing, even the mistakes I was making. And I was just living a life. It was about working to play, you know? And that's kind of just what I did for a long time, for about 8 years, until my boss and I had a falling out. And he was not a great guy to work for, but you know, I got comfortable and I got complacent, and when I left, I had no idea what I was going to do, and so I just went to bartending school, and I needed something quick, you know. Went to bartending school, finished it, got my little piece of paper, and immediately within a month, I was bartending at a sports bar in Flushing. And it was fun and it was great. I had a great time doing it, but it was killing me. It was literally knocking years off my life. You know,
because of the damage that you're putting on your body, probably more than likely.
Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, I look like a drug addict to begin with. I'm like I'm 140 pounds with rolls of quarters in my pocket.
I wish I was. Jeez, that'd be great.
I cannot put on weight. So you could just imagine, like, you know, drinking and doing blow all night and you know, sleeping till the next shift. I was eating maybe once a day. But I was making a ton of money, you know. So when I actually got fired from that bar because I was dealing coke from behind the bar.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, and they were very, very nice. They fired me for giving away free drinks.
You're like, I wasn't giving away free drinks.
I actually argued about it until I really realized what was happening, and then I was like, okay.
I mean, technically speaking, you were probably making that bar a whole lot of money.
That's what I said.
You were probably making that bar more money than what they knew, you know, because let's just be honest.
I kept the party going. See?
Yes.
You know, so, but yeah, so I left that. It was, and then I really realized how close to rock bottom I was getting.
Yeah.
But I have amazing friends in New York, man, and they pulled me in. They saved me. And then I got the call from my mom about my dad being sick. And my dad and I do not have a great relationship.
Yeah.
It's 100 times better right now than it's ever been. But it's definitely not what it could be.
Yeah.
However, I decided I would come down. I tell my mom, I was like, I am not leaving New York, but I will come and help.
Yeah.
A couple of months. I could use the break anyway.
Like how bad? Because it is so, like, sitting here listening to you and sharing this. Oh my God, it's the characteristics of everything. Because what what helped change my life a little bit was um, I also didn't have that great relationship with my father, but my mom called me 2 weeks prior to my father dying to let me know that he was dying. So and so I got to be there for him at that point.
Wow.
But yeah, so kudos for you for like being like, yeah, maybe I should listen to what mom is saying and go
Yeah.
down there and be with dad. You know,
My mom's an amazing woman, man, and
because
she's very persuasive. So
that sounds like it was a life changing thing for you. You know,
so it was and it wasn't.
all
Okay.
right,
Because I moved down, I came down for the first 3 months. I hated every second of it. But because of my architecture experience, my dad is a custom woodworker and he could build anything. And he literally said to me, he goes, anything you draw, I'll build. And so I'm going out and and this is 1999 into 2000. So they're building up Orlando. Like when I moved down here, it was a ghost town. But there's
okay, so Orlando outside of Disney World, because let's just
Yeah.
get that correct.
Yeah.
Right. Even though Disney World is part of Orlando, okay, Disney World is Disney World.
It's very far removed from
Orlando is Orlando.
Orlando is Orlando. That's
Yes.
right. Exactly. So so these people are building new houses, all these subdivisions are popping up, and people want custom stuff. They want custom kitchens, they want home offices. They back then people wanted to pay for quality work, you know. And so
Yeah.
I would draw and my dad and I would build. And it was amazing. And I was just like, wow, this looks like it could be something here.
Yeah.
It was my dad's own business. And so, but I wasn't convinced. But I went back up to New York, and I'll never forget, it was like February. And my friends threw this welcome home party. So we had this huge party and we're just having a great old time. And one of my fraternity brothers reminded me of another fraternity brother that lived in Orlando. And he's like, you should look him up.
All right.
And I said, okay, well, I got to go back to get my stuff and maybe stay for another month. I'll look him up while I'm there.
Yeah.
And I got back to Orlando. I called him. Like, he was at the door before I hung up the phone. Like, and there it was. That was my opportunity to go back to doing all the stuff that I had left up in New York.
Yeah.
This guy meets me at the door. He's like, I am going to show you why you need to stay in Orlando. And he did. He convinced me. We went everywhere, like 5 nights a week. We're out drinking, we're at partying, we're at clubs, bars, golf tournaments, strip clubs, anything where there was people and women, we were there. And so it wasn't long before I got drawn right back into what I was doing before.
Yeah. The chaos of that scene. Yeah.
Because, you know, wherever you go, there you are, Kyle, right?
Yes.
And so
that's correct.
I say that all the time because it's not your change of scenery that you need. It's your change of self, right?
Yes. Yep.
And so what convinced me to stay was, it's weird. What convinced me to stay was that I met my wife.
Kudos.
But
it's amazing how that happens, right? You know, like,
she blew me off. But the funniest part about it is I meet her, I watch her walk across the room, and I lean over and I say to my buddy, I was like, I'm gonna marry that girl. And he just fell off his stool rolling. And I mean, I was serious. And so he actually called her over and was like, hey, my buddy wants to buy you a drink.
All right.
And we sat, we talked, I gave her my card, and then I never heard from her. And but then by then I had decided I'm gonna stay in Orlando because the women are nice, I have a steady job, you know, things are going great. I got a friend, I'm not so lonely anymore.
I mean, come on, you got this woman that you think is hot, and
you
want to pursue her. Like, I can tell you right now, my at the beginning of mine and my wife's relationship, she probably was thinking, "How long is this guy gonna stick around for? Like, when's he gonna bounce? When's he gonna leave?" You know, because I wasn't the guy that I am now, but
Right.
So I totally get where how you are. You know,
Yeah.
like where it's crazy.
It was crazy. And the funny part about it is, like I said, like I met her once and then I didn't see her again for like 3 months.
All right.
And I ran into her at a bar and we hung out that night. And then I didn't see her again for like another 2 months. And then I ran into her at this huge outdoor rock concert that they have down here called Earth Day Birthday. And I just kept running into her. But she would never call, and I didn't have her number.
But she was always there.
She was always there. Yeah. And then it was November of 2000. She called me up and she said, "Hey, I'm in town," which was very interesting because I didn't know she was out of town.
But by this time she had your phone number, which was pretty awesome. But obviously you weren't calling her.
No, because I didn't have her number. She had mine.
She had yours. Yeah.
I didn't have hers.
There was some stuff going on in the background. That's what it was.
She had a boyfriend. Yeah. But when she didn't, she found my card.
Yeah.
So she made me want to be a better man. Things actually got worse when we got together before it got better, because what drew me to her, of course, aside from her stunning beauty, was this girl could hang. I mean, she could party. She could run. And I was just like, wow.
My wife can also probably out party me. I'm just gonna let it be known right now on this podcast with my wife sitting across the room that if she said it is proven. She just said it out loud. She can out party me. Okay, I'm just gonna let you know. But
it's a good, strong woman right there. Good style. Yes. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. She just said, she just uttered the words "Monsters Ball," which was a beard event that was held a couple years ago. I was done. And she out-partied me all night long. So yes, good, strong woman indeed.
That's right.
She's definitely the rock of their relationship.
Yes.
But just like your wife, my wife has been there through some tough times in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kudos for strong women.
No doubt. We married up. Yeah, that's right. But once we started getting serious, that's when I kind of realized I didn't know how to be a good husband and dad, and it like scared me, because for the first time in my life I was really serious about a woman, and I knew I didn't have what it took to keep her.
I feel that. I feel that 100%.
It was frightening. It was frightening, and I just knew I wanted to be a better person for her. And like I said, we went out, we partied all the time. I mean, Sundays were for football and the ale house, and that's just kind of what we did. But we did start going to church because a few of her friends went to a small little Baptist church, and even though they were hungover, they went.
Yes,
you have
bonfires. That's what you did on Sundays,
Saturday night. Yeah, and then walk into church Sunday morning smelling like firewood smoke, and
acting all blessed. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. But somewhere in that mess, God was speaking to me, man, and it was very slow, but I was listening.
That's because he knew he had to speak slow.
Yeah,
he knew how he spoke fast that you probably wouldn't have listened. Right?
I'd have missed it altogether.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's amazing how our higher power works in our lives.
Yeah,
the way we need him to work.
Right? Oh man, thank God for his divine patience, because I was a mess. I was not worthy, for sure. For sure. but I did start listening, you know, and I started paying attention. We got married in 2003. 2006, we had our first kid.
All right.
Jacob was born. And around 2007, we were baptized. But I was still out. I was still smoking. I was still drinking. Kind of laid off the blow a little bit. But I was also in school for elementary education. I went back to school for elementary education. I wanted to be a third grade teacher, and I did that. I did do that. However, in 2006, like right after we got married, about 2004, I fell back into the aquarium industry here in Orlando by accident. And it ended up being the most incredible stretch. People were actually paying me to open up aquarium stores.
So how is it that you fell into it by accident? Did somebody find out that you were like the Mr. Wizard of the aquarium industry in New York?
We got married, and at the time I was working for AT&T as a contract employee in their small business repair department.
All right.
And I was excelling at that job, so much so that the AT&T, they were supposed to take me off of contract and hire me as an AT&T employee, but they wouldn't do it. And instead, they kept putting AT&T employees in my area so that I could train them. Basically, so I could train them and lose my job.
Yeah. You were training your replacement slowly but surely.
So rather than do that, I spoke to my manager and I said, I am going to wipe my computer and I'm going to cause a scene and you're going to fire me so I can collect unemployment. And he was like, okay, because he knew what they were doing was horrible, you know?
Yeah.
And so I wiped my computer. I threw that keyboard across the room. We got into a fake fight. I got fired and I collected unemployment.
So note to self, everybody out there, easy way to get fired is get your manager on board. Just do what PJ says.
You get your manager on board, it's all good.
Do what PJ, do not do what he said, okay? Do not do that.
So I have to preface this by saying when you're in New York, you know how to hustle, man. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. Like, I mean, that's where you learn to hustle, right?
It comes with the territory. Right? Yes. You sink or you swim. You know what I mean? And so how it happened by accident is that, and which this is really, really funny because how I first got into the aquarium industry and how I got into the industry here in Orlando happened the same exact way. Okay. It was my dad had Oscar fish, which needed to be fed feeder fish.
Okay.
And my mom asked me to go for a ride with her to the aquarium store to go buy feeder fish. That's how I got my first job, because when I walked into that job in Queens to buy goldfish, my mom said, you should apply for that job. And I'm like, no, what do I know about fish? But I did it and they hired me anyway.
So Jeff Harris.
Jeff, you're 100% right.
Yes. Or Jeff, you know how to play the game in the hustle world and you don't have to worry about that because you still got your hustle going on.
There's a lot to be said for a hustle.
Yes. So you got your hustle going on, then you get that real job. Right? So you're really never missing money. The money's still coming in.
The hustle is the hustle.
Yes.
Right. So I walked in. So my down here in Florida, my dad had fish and they needed to be fed fish. And I went with my mom to a store and there was a help wanted sign on the store. And she said the same thing that she said to me 15 years prior. You need to apply for that job.
You need to get back into it. Yeah.
And I did. And it actually ended up being an amazing experience. I mean, I opened up 4 stores. I trained tons of people. I had a huge client base that would follow me from store to store.
All right.
Would work from my phone. I was going to University Central Florida full time, working on my elementary ed degree. Had wife, had kid, had everything set the way I wanted it to be set. I was serving in my church. Still starting to reconcile with the party life.
Yeah.
I was going to church and serving in the children's ministry at church. I was doing that. Started to feel real convicted about running into a parent or a kid in Walmart or something like that.
Or at the bar the night before.
Or at the bar the night before.
Because we got into it. We share very similarities along this because I shared, and my wife just found out tonight that at one point in my life I was a children's music minister,
right,
at a small Baptist church. But I was also, the night before, I was going out and clubbing and doing copious amounts of you name it, whatever, So yes, I always had that mindset in the back of my mind is, what if I see little Joe's parents out,
right?
And here I am, I got to go to church tomorrow, and I gotta have these kids singing Bible verse songs and doing all this stuff. Who am I? I'm no better than the other person,
Right.
So yeah.
Yep. But that's what we did.
Yeah, that's indeed.
That's where I say, thank God for God, man. He was so patient. He really, really is, and so
that's one thing, I'm not a religious person. I'm a very spiritual person.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one thing I've noticed in my journey is that they never give up on you. You might give up on them, but they never give up on you.
It's incredible. It really is. And I should have been left alone a lot of times. I mean, I tell people all the time I wasn't a bad guy. I just did a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah.
But they all contribute, right? And so, and I guess it's important to tell you that this whole part of my life, because of why I do what I do now. However, fast forward a little bit to 2009, I'm working in the aquarium industry. I'm actually working in the biggest store I've ever opened. It was former customers of mine that decided to buy their daughter a Petland for her birthday.
All right.
It was literally what they did. And it was, but it was a Petland. They opened it in a grocery store. It was an old grocery store. So
they bought her own
Petland.
All right.
Mm-hmm. And then they came into the store that I was in, and they said, "You're coming with us. We want you to rebuild this aquarium section, and make it yours." And so I said, "Okay," and that's what I did. And it was great up until 2009 was when the banks were giving out loans for houses, and people were losing their shirts, and everybody wanted to flip a house, and be real estate owners, and everybody lost their shirts. And so that store could not maintain, and they closed. And that was in January of 2009. And my wife was like, "What are we going to do?" Because there was no way I was going to make the kind of money that I was making doing what I was doing anywhere else. The closest option was to get back into bartending. And that scared me. And so I just kind of said to her, God will provide. And because what really happened in that January when I lost that job was I had this revelation that I had been making great choices. I had been taking care of my wife, taking care of my kid.
Yeah.
I was going to school. I was doing the right stuff. I had toned back that party life. However, I was going to church. I was doing all of the stuff. I wasn't including God in my plans. I was making plans and asking God to bless them.
Yeah, you were just hoping that even though you weren't doing the works, you were just hoping that God would really do what you want him to do.
Right.
Because that's what I was going to ask you. It's like, when you said that God would provide, would you really believe in that, or were you just saying that?
Oh no, probably for the first time ever believed it wholeheartedly.
Yeah, like that. Like there was conviction.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I knew things were going so well, and so for it to just be snatched away, I refused to believe it was bad luck.
Yeah.
Or I kind of just had this sense that there was an awakening in myself that was
like things happen for reasons. This was supposed to happen for
it's time to start paying attention.
Yes. Yep. And it's time to pay attention.
Yes.
To what the signs are saying, because this is where you need to be.
Yeah. And so in 2009, and I got to go back, but just to tell you that God would provide. In 2009, we never missed rent. We actually bought our first house. Bought a car. I'm unemployed the entire time. All through. Wow. I didn't get a job until teaching, because I didn't graduate with my elementary ed degree until December 2009. So I wasn't teaching for a salary until August 2010. But from January 2009 to August 2010, we were without one.
Wow. So like a year and a half, you were like for real, like you were banking on God providing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like what's the old saying? Faith without works is dead.
That's right.
So you were putting in the work.
Exactly. Where was the faith?
Yes. And that's. I mean, I'm gonna tell everybody here. I don't know. Everybody stances on religion or whatever like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in life, if you don't put it into work to make the changes aren't gonna happen.
Right.
But just by you saying, "Oh, the changes are gonna happen."
Right. Right.
I
fully believe God meets us halfway.
Yeah.
But you have to take the steps.
Yeah. You got to. You got to put in some type of work.
Mm-hmm.
To make the things changes, and this is my thing. God might not provide at that certain time, and your higher power, whatever you believe in, might not provide the way that you want him to provide, but he provides in the way that you need him to provide.
Right.
If that makes sense,
mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so you got that going on through 2009 up to 2010.
Right.
What else was clicking in your head at that time?
Well, what happened is, so in January, when my wife says, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I'm going to start serving more in the church." And so I actually started serving a lot more in the children's area. And then I told her we needed to start a Bible study for college kids.
All right.
And she was like, "What? How are we going to have college kids in our house? How are we going to feed them?" And I'm like, "God will provide."
Yeah. Don't worry.
And again, and he did. And this group grew from 12 to about 25 college age students showing up every Monday night. At the last night, which was probably about middle of March, the end of the Bible study called us to love out loud, which means you got to go do something outside.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go work in a children's hospital, but one of the girls said, "No, there's an organization called Rock for Hunger, and they're feeding homeless people in the park." And I was like, "What's doing what? Where? Like what?"
Yeah.
And again, I'm from New York, so I could care less about homeless people, to be honest.
Yeah, because in New York, that they're so abundant that they get overlooked anyway.
Oh my gosh. And you just avoid them, and you just pretend like you don't see them, and you're just moving. So you're not slowing down.
Yeah.
To care or to hear, right?
That's what's wrong with I think society today.
Oh.
That we like, and here's the thing, I'm guilty of it too. You see the guy standing on the street, the street corner. You see that same person over and over again, and I'm guilty of judging them.
Right.
but you don't know what they're going through.
Don't
you know?
know. You don't know.
So, yeah. And especially in those big cities like New York, you know, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
Right? So, and I'm sure like just like in New York or whatever, in Nashville, the homeless shelters, they fill up at night, but then in the daytime they would kick you out.
Yes.
And you would just become part of the population again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and at that time it was feast or famine, but
right.
you would also get overlooked. You know,
mm-hmm.
So kudos for whoever said, "Hey, this is going on. We need to be a part of this."
Right. And what really only intrigued me was the title of the group was Rock for Hunger. So I was like, let's go. I'm down.
Your whole musical, the musical thought was like, yeah, I'm all over this.
It was like a guy with a guitar.
Yes. Rocking out, like singing some grunge song.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, totally.
So I was like, let's go, man. And
let's do
out
this.
there, and it was the most amazing thing I had ever experienced. There were kids out there throwing frisbee and football around with homeless guys, and it was like all kumbaya-ish. And I was like, what is happening here? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And, you know, I loved it so much, I just kept going back. And they served on Monday nights.
All right.
And so I don't have a job. And one of the college kids who also had nothing to do, we kept going. We just kept going. We just loved it. By like May, the leadership of the Rock for Hunger organization would like, listen, bro, these people out here love you. You need to start your own homeless ministry. And I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah. You're like, nah.
You gotta be.
You guys are doing 100% a great job.
All right.
I'm cool with it. Yeah.
I'm here to support you.
Yeah.
But I kept going, and like they said, like I just loved everybody out there. It was the first time I started. I could sit next to a homeless man, hear his story, and just go, that could be me. I should be where you are.
Yeah.
You know, and it was such an eye-opening thing. Like I met a college professor who's out on the street because he lost his wife and just spiraled and then didn't know how to get back. You know, I met guys that were career, just blue collar guys that just got hurt. Insurance didn't cover their time off. They lose the job, they lose the truck, they lose the house. Like it's so fast, like how cruel the world can be when you need help. And so a lot of this, because they're all drug addicts, you know.
Yep. You never know.
And it's not true.
Yeah, you never know.
More people start doing drugs because they're on the street as opposed to their drug habit forcing them into the street.
Yep. Because that's a coping mechanism.
Exactly.
It's a way of making them forget that they are homeless.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Like, I mean, yes, my addiction at one time in my life led me to be homeless.
Right.
And when I got to be homeless, I let my addiction continue, but then I was like, I can't live this life anymore.
Right.
You know? But it's totally, sometimes it's the totally opposite direction, you know?
Right.
And that's the thing. You don't know what people are going through. So it's awesome that you were able to see, number one, the changes that you made in your life to be a better person, and that you saw yourself in those people.
Yeah.
You know? And that you weren't judging them, because we're all human beings.
Right.
It doesn't matter the color of our skin, what we believe in. We all stumble. You know, some of us make it up from that, but we're all human beings.
Right.
You know? So it's awesome that you were able to see that in those people that you were with. You know,
it definitely was. I felt so much love
yeah,
from people out there, and you know, people would say, "Why do so many homeless people have your phone number?" And I was like, because you know what? They're not who you think they are. I was like, I
yeah,
get more annoying phone calls from people who call themselves my friends every day
yeah,
than I do from homeless guys on the street that actually need something and won't use my phone.
yeah,
They won't.
and don't want to call you because they feel ashamed or they just don't want to bug you.
Yeah, they don't want to be a burden, you
Yeah,
know. And so like I said, I just fell in love with the whole thing, and then and so I kept going, but I did not want to start a homeless ministry.
yeah.
But that summer, I was also I had signed up to go on a mission trip.
Oh, I cannot wait for this. I remember this story. Oh my God, this is great. It's just this story for those of you who did not watch Talking Bears when PJ
Why though?
this
so
this
great
story
about this story.
this story that he's fixing to mention. Oh my God, it's one of those to where it's like, wow, definitely. Here's the thing. Definitely something was going on that you did not know about that was higher than you. Because let's just be honest. Yeah. So yeah, share this story with everybody.
And I'll tell a little bit more. I'll elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah.
So the trip was slated for the beginning of June of 2009, and somewhere around February or March, some guy just stuck his head out of a room at church and said, "Hey, PJ, you want to go to Bolivia?" And I was like, "Sure." and then that was the extent of it for me. Like,
yeah.
I wrote a few letters. I raised the money very, very easily because I was in the children's area. A lot of families just loved PJ. You know, You go on a mission trip? Sure, we'll help.
Yeah.
So I raised the money in like a month, and all these letters are coming home, and my wife's like, "Are you reading any of this stuff?" And I'm like, "No,
No,
you know, it'll be fine, you know." And so June shows up, and I'm sitting on a plane, and I'm going, "Holy crap! I have no idea where I'm going.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing."
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm listening. I'll never forget this because I was listening to some music, and I was listening to Bill Withers' "Use Me Up."
All right.
And great song, and the words "Use Me Up" just got stuck in my brain. It was circulating over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And then I had this picture of, you know, of a wrench sitting on a workbench, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, a wrench is a great tool, but it's only a good tool if it's in the hands of someone that knows how to use it.
Yeah.
And so I said, that's what I want. I said, God, I want to be your wrench. You use me up. And man, be careful what you pray for. Be very, very careful what you pray for.
Especially if you're not ready for it.
Especially when you're not ready for it. I was blindsided by this trip. God literally knocked me on my ass. Like, again, I was teaching children's church. I was learning as I was going, right? Everything's a hustle, right? So I'm teaching myself. I'm learning so that I can teach. You know, I'm growing in the Bible. I'm trying to be obedient. But there was a lot of stuff with the Bible that I wasn't vibing with, you know?
Yeah.
And in this space in Bolivia, God showed me how real he really, really was. And then he showed me the most important thing was that he didn't need me, but he wanted me.
Yep.
And that was blatantly obvious. So one day, and this is all going to sound crazy to a lot of people, but we watch movies where crazier things happen and we buy in on it. So I remember one day we got out of the van and there's this huge sandstorm. It's just whipping. And I get out of the van and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like what what the heck? We're getting pelted with rocks. And I just kind of said, God, we can't possibly do what we came here to do if this doesn't stop. And it instantly stopped. Like instantly. There was another time where I spoke Spanish. I actually spoke Spanish 3 times in Bolivia. And I don't speak Spanish. And the only reason I know I was speaking Spanish is because my translator was like, why am I here if you speak Spanish?
You're like, I'm not.
And I'm like, I'm not. And she's like, yeah, you are. And so those are just 2 different things. Take it for whatever value you want to take it.
Yeah.
But those things really happened. And so, and then I met a woman who was just broken. And man, I get choked up just thinking about her right now. She had tried to kill herself several times. She was on her way out, and God used me in her life in that trip. And it was earth shattering, the trip. It really made me realize I needed to be serious about life.
Yeah.
Because in America, we even the poorest of us have it good. We do. You know, I tell homeless guys that all the time. I was like, you're middle class in certain countries.
Compared to other countries, yeah.
Because at least you know I'm showing up to feed you today.
Yeah.
You know, there are people who have no idea where their next meal is coming from. Like literally no idea. And so I'm sitting on the plane and I'm coming back and I am just ugly crying. I am just a mess. And I'm actually mad at God. And I'm kind of just like, what the heck? Like, what was this for? Like, why did I raise this money? Why did I go over there? What am I supposed to do with this? You know?
Yeah.
And then I just heard him say, I gave you your job before you left. And I was like, you did.
Yeah.
You told me to start a homeless ministry and I blew you off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that rocked me.
I mean, come on now. You spoke Spanish. You didn't know that you were speaking Spanish. You know, so
I played guitar. I played the guitar like Bloody Dave Matthews. It was like, what is happening here? Like, yeah, like, I mean, amazing stuff happened on that trip. So I came back and I knew I was supposed to start Straight Street. And the funniest thing about that is that everybody tried to talk me out of it.
Because they didn't believe that you could do it.
Everybody. Everybody. I mean, even the pastor of my church, like, put like people who I really respected and admired in our church, and he orchestrated lunches and meetings just for them to talk me out of it. And it was just like, what is happening? You know?
Yeah.
And which added to my already cynical idea of organized church, you know? And so I just doubled down and I knew I had to do it. And I filed, you know, I filed for an LLC. I got it instantly. I completed the paperwork myself for a 501c3. Everybody said I couldn't do that. Like, I'm not smart enough to do that, you know? And I just went out in the street and I started telling people, hey, September 1st, we're going to be serving dinner on Tuesday nights. You know, September 1st, we're going to be serving dinner on Tuesday nights. I had no idea where the food was going to come from. I had no idea how it was going to happen. I just knew we were going to do it. And somebody said, hey, I'll cook for you. And then a couple of people said, hey, we'll join you. And that was our very first food share. It was 5 or 6 of us. It was 6 trays of spaghetti. About 60 homeless people showed up. And it was an amazing experience. And then the very next Tuesday, we did it again. And we doubled everything. We doubled the amount of people that came out to help. We doubled the amount of food we had, and we doubled the amount of people that we were going to serve. And it just snowballed. And 15 years later, I'm still kind of like looking over my shoulder, like, what the heck? Like,
yeah.
How did we pull this off?
I like what Andrew Matson says right here. Tell me I can't do something, I'll do it twice.
You know what, Andrew? That was what I realized was so important, because, at that point, I'm looking at people in the church who I respected and admired, and I'm feeling this conviction that God is calling his people out into the street to serve, not to stay inside of a building and worry about the coffee bar and worry about pamphlets and T-shirts.
Yep. Worry about the offering that's coming in. Yeah,
we're about going out.
Yeah,
and the fact that they didn't get that really made me rethink about who I want to be a spiritual leader in my life.
Yeah.
Or if I even needed one.
Yeah.
Because if they can't see what I'm seeing, and I know what I'm seeing is biblical, then there's something wrong.
Yep.
And so I really rebelled against the church I was at. But it was weird because I was in angst with the leadership. However, people in the church were really rallying around what I was doing.
That's because they were starting to see that, dude, this guy is making a change slowly but surely. Why should we doubt what he's doing when look at the fruits of his labor?
And I used to make a joke with my wife, and I used to say, this is real if white families are trusting their babies to come downtown and serve homeless people with me.
Yeah.
It's gotta be God and not me.
well, it's like Andrew Matson says, you knew exactly where you need to be, and the ones who truly cared and support you.
Andrew, it was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And supported me, yes, but also what it showed me is that intrinsically people want to help people. Yes. They just needed an opportunity. They needed help.
It's not just any person. It's a person who has a caring heart and who wants to see other people succeed and rise above, that want to help people, Right. But I mean, yes, there are people out there that we've all seen the videos that they do it for clout, like the TikTokers and the YouTubers that they do it for clout.
Yeah.
But then there's people out there like you, they're doing it. They are doing it because they know that I can change this person's life. I can let this person see that whatever they're going through, they can rise above and be a better person.
And I mean, that's what God did for me, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what he did. And he did it with love, and he did it with patience. So who am I not to extend that love and patience to others?
Yeah. It just took you a while to get there.
It took boy, did it. Yeah. He did. And so that's how Straight Street started. How it's maintained has again just been absolutely crazy, because I've always been what they call bivocational, right? So I've always been doing multiple things at the same time.
Yeah.
So, I started Straight Street, of course, and then in September of 2009, and a year later, now I'm a third grade teacher. And so now I'm teaching, and I'm running my homeless ministry, and then I'm also serving in the church.
And you're also married.
And I'm also married, and my second kid was born February 2010.
Wow.
All right. So now I've got two boys. And I graduated from school, and I'm teaching. And then in 2013, I actually quit teaching. Teaching 3 times. I quit teaching, and I started a contract company. And what happened was somebody from my church, I was at a different church now, learned that there was a hedge fund that was coming to Orlando, and they were buying out all of the foreclosed and short sale houses that they could.
All right.
And they wanted to flip them and make them rental properties.
Yeah.
So he comes to me and he says, hey, I know you used to do custom woodworking. Do you think we could start a contract company with homeless guys? And I'm like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
And for 20 months, we took guys off the street.
Yep.
We taught them a trade. We taught them how to do tile work. We taught them how to do
and you didn't worry about the liabilities or anything like that. You took all that on.
Yeah. I mean, it was dangerous. I had chairs thrown at me. We had to pull a guy out of a crack house once, a couple times. I've had fights. I mean, staring down the eyes of a guy that's just tweaking out of his mind, and trying to pull him back down to earth. And it was, and then on top of that, we've got deadlines. We've got houses to flip. Yeah. We've got people to pay. We've got people to pay us. We've got payroll. We're trying to run a legitimate business. But we also had, Celebrate Recovery going on, meetings going on. We had Bible studies. We were trying to reacclimate these guys into society as best as we could. If we had our own dorm, it would have been way more successful. But we learned that it was possible, and we learned that we could do it. And we were actually, this hedge funds, we were one of their premier contract companies, and they had no idea that it was being, almost completely employed by homeless guys.
Homeless guys. Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, actually, at the end of that, when it came to an end, one guy went back to Boston, started his own paint company.
A homeless guy.
Right. Another guy has his own paint company down in Kissimmee. Right. Both of these guys never held a brush before in their life. One guy's working for Universal right now. And a fourth guy's out in Lake Mary doing, I heard he was working, but I'm not really 100% sure.
All because you gave them a chance at life to succeed.
Yeah. I mean, and then, unfortunately, everybody's sober when they don't have money in their pocket, and
of course. Yeah.
So a lot of what happened was just a lot of people just weren't ready, man. Any addict will tell you until you are ready, you're not gonna stop.
Yeah.
And so some guys just weren't. Even though we were providing the best opportunity possible, some guys just didn't. They weren't ready for it.
But by the way, Andrew Matson wants to know: do you ever sleep? I don't think he does, man.
I struggle with sleep. But the weird thing about it is that I didn't start struggling with sleep until 2019. And so what I did with my homeless ministry was we created an opportunity in 2016 to start traveling to Brazil to build houses for people in the slums over there.
All right.
And so between 2016 and 2019, we actually built 15 houses for 15 families. I was going to Brazil 3 times a year. My wife was freaking out.
Yeah, I bet.
She loved that I was doing it. It's just she got worried that I might want to move there because I love Sao Paulo, Brazil. Well, we were flipping. We were demolishing these shacks that people were living in, and we were putting up houses in 3 days. And we would do that 3 times a year. And the last trip I took before COVID, October 2019, I came back, and that was the end of sleep. I suffered really terribly during 2020. I actually thought I was going insane. I was working on my master's for mental health, and my kids were home from school. I was alone, and I know you are, Justin.
Justin is getting his passport to go to Brazil.
I've been trying to get Justin to go with me to Brazil since I started going.
Or he says, or wherever he can help. Yes.
So I've taken a lot of people to Brazil with me, man, because I just feel like it's
I mean, after I get done with this podcast, I'm gonna tell my wife that we need to come down to Orlando and just volunteer and help out Straight Street.
Yeah,
and
man.
then B, we need to get our passports and go to Brazil and help you out and let you get some sleep. All right, get some sleep. You know the old adage, be still and know that I am there.
Yeah,
it's okay to be still sometimes.
The thing is this, right? Like, I look forward to laying my head down every night. I just don't know that I'm not necessarily able to separate myself. And I get it. I do a lot of different things on a regular basis. So it's kind of hard to disconnect from it all.
Yeah.
But this sleep thing is it's been a struggle. It's been a real bear for me. Because it challenges my ability to be productive.
But yet does it? Because here's the thing. You're being productive right now.
Yeah.
I mean this is the thing. Sleep is very important. Sleep is a very important thing to be productive. Right? So it's okay to take those breaks.
Yeah.
And not worry.
Now, mind you, I will say this. I have never allowed the things I do to impact my marriage and my family.
That's awesome.
Because
that comes first. Everybody knows that.
Home, I'm dad.
Yeah.
This is
so you're not always on this.
No.
Or on your computer. When you're home, you are now dad or honey.
Yeah.
Or whatever your wife feels like calling you that day.
Yeah. I'm on the couch watching TV with the kids. We're doing dinner. We're hanging out. It's movie night. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not work. And so, and just priorities, man. I would be nothing without my wife. I can't even lie about that. And then my kids are my legacy, man. My kids are an opportunity for me. I have 3 boys. And my kids are an opportunity for me to break old cycles.
Yeah.
And build new ones.
Yeah.
And so
that and your kids are the future of your success.
I mean, they may or may not want to do Straight Street, but
they may not.
They all.
What do they? And that's the thing. Like, what do they think of that now? Are they involved in it now or no?
So my oldest is 17. He's graduating high school in a couple of weeks.
Oh God, that doesn't that make you feel really old to know that you have a senior in high school?
It is. It's jarring, man.
It's mind blowing, right?
Yeah, but he has been active in our church since he was a kid.
Yeah.
And he now is actually our worship music director, youngest ever.
There you go.
And he's going to Liberty University to study commercial music production and worship.
All right.
And he's ministry minded. He was the first. He's the first everything. He was in Brazil with me when he was 10 years old. He's been out on the street with me since he was 6. Serving homeless. My middle son, same thing. He's been out on the street with me. He actually loves it, probably the most out of everybody.
Yeah.
My middle son, and he's just a huge ball of energy. I don't know what he wants to do, but it's weird because all of my kids are kind of ministry minded. It's weird to me because my wife and I are both academics, and I never envisioned that ministry would be a part of my life. So in 2012, on our church's very first mission trip to Brazil, our lead pastor says to me, "I want you to be a pastor at my church." And I looked at him and I was like, and I literally said to him, "Hell no."
I was going to say, did you laugh? I would have laughed.
I did. I was like, "Are you crazy?" And I was like, and I said, "You guys are a bunch of hypocrites. There is no way I want to be a part of that."
Yeah.
And he goes, he goes, "Well, that's exactly why you should be doing this."
Yeah.
And he goes, and just as a caveat, by the way, he goes, "Your church is bigger than mine." And I go, "What are you talking about? I don't have a church." He says,
Yeah, you do.
Street is a church.
Yep. Yeah, you do. Anywhere that you can do good things for people, and yeah, it doesn't have to be a church. Doesn't have to be a building, brother.
Right.
Right? It doesn't have to be that. I mean,
I didn't know that then. I know that.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I'm not about organized religions. I am not about what happens inside of a brick building.
Right.
Right. I mean, hell, this episode of Shape the Podcast can be a church.
Yeah.
Because church is whatever you get out of it, right?
That's right.
If you get something out of something to make your life better,
mm-hmm.
and that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
I'm
yes,
trying.
He is right. Your church is bigger than his.
Yeah, and it was at the time. We typically had, back then we were feeding close to 300 people a night, and we had upwards of about 60 to 80 volunteers coming out to help.
That's crazy.
It's been a crazy progression, and we're still doing it. And you know what? We keep it simple, man. We just meet people where they're at.
Yeah. And I totally what I totally like, and we're way over an hour now.
Yeah.
Is I like the story that you shared about how when COVID hit, you actually helped chefs.
Oh, okay.
Still have an income coming in because you paid them to feed people.
Right. We had a food truck that the city wouldn't let us use because every time we pulled up, they would threaten to fine us for public feeding.
Yeah.
And but when COVID hit, we had an opportunity to use it. But we needed food, and we needed chefs, and so we would appeal to restaurants and catering chefs, and we would say, "Hey, if we could work out a deal, we want a balanced meal. If we could work a deal out for $3 a plate, we'll take 250 plates." And we did it in rotation. So we were serving 4 nights a week, and we were working with like 4 to 6 different chefs. We would just rotate around. So at least once a week, every entity was making some money, upwards of about $750, $800 for helping us feed people on the street.
That's amazing. Now, right now at this time, how many nights a week do you do it?
Right now, 5.
Monday through Friday.
Yes, Monday through Friday.
Yes. Now, how many of do you see, at your church? Do you see a lot of those guys and men and women that you've got to minister through the week? Do you see them coming in?
Well, no, because our church is on the other side of town.
All right.
From where our food share is.
Okay.
They want to come, and we would welcome them. I've actually brought a couple of them here and there. But I actually bring church to them. So every Tuesday night, I share a message.
All right. So so you have like a little service there. That's awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Well, dude, we are like at like that hour and almost hour and a half mark. What I think what you're doing is amazing. And I'm glad that you got hooked up with Justin. And I will actually, like I said, in 2 weeks I'll talk to Justin about how.
I'm gonna be watching because I want to make sure Justin tells the story right.
I've read Justin's story. Okay, Justin sent me the story, and I'm amazed. Of course, your name wasn't in it then.
Right.
I can't wait to hear how you and Justin got that connection.
We met in a very weird way.
That's what I'm saying. There's gotta be something magical there, because
it was.
I mean,
it didn't seem like it, but it definitely was magical. Yeah.
So let's see. So now at this current date in time, you got Straight Street going on.
Yes.
Right? You're going through the whole counseling thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like Chick-fil-A is magical. That's all right. Well, all right, Justin, you can hold that story. We will. Yes. All right. Speaking of, Don Shea just brought this up. If somebody wants to donate to your organization, is there a website that they can go to or anything of that nature?
Yeah, I guess I could put the website on the chat.
All right. Or if Justin knows that, we'll pop that up. Because I think that would be.
He knows.
I think that would be great. For
Thanks,
people
for asking. I appreciate that.
For people who are watching this episode and people who are going to be rewatching it or watching it for the first time later on, like just to anything with you guys. Like, is there like a specific need right now that you guys need?
So I mean oh man, Justin's blowing me up. If you go to Folks Gotta Eat on Spotify, you'll hear my recorded messages that I share with the people on the street.
There you go. All right. So yes, it's right here.
It's uncut. Yeah.
Justin just put it. So check out Folks Gotta Eat on Spotify.
All right.
And maybe one of these days you'll be able to hear Shape the Podcast on Spotify. I'm not familiar with how to do all that stuff yet, but I think it's amazing. And I wish that we had a Straight Street here in Ohio where I live at. Like I said, we have those food pantries, and we have those homeless shelters, but you don't, it's sight unseen, so to speak.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's awesome that you found your purpose in life, and that you had to go through a lot of crap to find that purpose.
It's been a blessing, man.
You did it. Now, what's your wife think about all this? Does she wish that you would slow down a little bit, or does she understand?
The craziest thing about my wife is that her grandmother and I were best friends. I mean, my wife's grandma is like an old German descent. She's like third generation American. The second she met me, she could have thought any millions of different things about me. And instead, she looked at me, and my wife told me this, and she looked at her and she said to her, "You better hold on, because this guy's gonna take you on a ride." And my wife, she defers back to that statement every single time. She goes, "You did not disappoint." My grandma saw it coming. She knew that we were going to be living a life that was going to be extraordinary and special, different. And my wife's no slouch, man. She is the microbiology lab manager at one of the main hospitals here in Orlando. So she's a big boss, and she's got 90 people she's in charge of, and she works, but she is an amazing mom. An amazing mom. I one of my greatest joys is just watching her with my boys, and
nice.
and then she's got my back, and that's what makes me feel like I'm unstoppable, because I remember when I started telling her, I think I got to go to Brazil, and she's just like, okay. The first time I quit teaching, I was like, babe, I feel like God's calling me back out onto the street. And she's just like, okay. And so, that kind of support is massive to have, to have a woman I share my life with just really be so supportive and reckless with her support as I am reckless with the decisions I make in my life.
Now, that's
amazing.
So I did. So Don Shea, to answer your question, sir, are you guys still doing the 10 toes down?
Yes.
All right. So Don, if you're listening, everybody out there, HTTPS, right, straightstreetorg.givingfuel.com/crowd/10-toes Down. You can go to that website, and I'll be sure to post it on the Shape the Podcast page. But you can go there and you can donate whatever amount you want.
Mhm.
You know, and that is to help, help Straight Street, be able to keep their doors open in 2024.
Yeah, we know.
Again,
we almost shut down last year. Actually,
I will go ahead and right now, I will copy that link and I will post it to the Shape the Podcast page. I'll repost this podcast again. But yeah, anything anybody can do, man, to let's keep Straight Street alive. I wish I could come to Orlando right now and help you out, brother.
One day you will, man.
It's a blessing what you're doing. I think it's awesome. I dig your spirit, man. I dig your whole the story of overcoming. It's a powerful thing. So I want to wrap up real quick, but before I let you go and let you go have some family time, I always like to end my episodes with my guests giving a word of encouragement or something powerful. If there is something that you could say to somebody out there who's going through those hard times and needs that pick me up, and needs to know that they're not alone, what would you say to them?
I would say there's a verse that I learned the first time I ever tried to read the Bible in one shot. It was a joke. I couldn't do it. I didn't learn anything. I didn't feel like. However, there was one verse that stuck out in my brain. And it says, it's Lamentations, it's Old Testament, it's chapter 3, it's verse 26, and it says, "It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord." And when I read that, the first thing that came to my mind was quit your bitching. Right? Because it says it's good to wait quietly, but it doesn't say don't do anything.
Yeah.
And so the implication in that verse is if you believe in a higher power, then you have to trust in that higher power to do what he says he will do, right? And to be who he says he is. And then if you believe that, then you have the freedom to move about and do the things that you feel God has called you to do without worrying about your own stuff. See, for me, the only reason I'm able to do the things that I do is because I believe God's going to take care of everything else, right? And so if I believe God's got my back, then it gives me the freedom to go out and have somebody else's back. And so I don't complain. I don't stress about my own things going on.
Yeah.
Because I know me being able to help someone else is of infinitely more importance than what I got going on.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's kind of just how I've led my life. And I just believe that it's a blessing to be a blessing. And so that's kind of my priorities. I want to bless as much people as I can in whatever ways I can do that.
Yeah.
If it's a conversation, then it's a conversation. If it's a hug, I'm gonna hug you. If you want me to cry with you, I'm gonna cry with you. If you want me to take you to the airport, I'll take you to the airport. You know what I mean? I'm not about to be taken advantage of either. However, I do believe there's not enough kindness in this world.
None whatsoever.
But I also believe we can restore that. I think we can change that. And I think the more that we show people how easy it is to love each other, the more that they'll hop on board with that.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing. Well, I thank you, PJ. I really do, man. I hope
thank you, Kyle. This was very unexpected. I didn't expect the beard community to embrace me the way they have. The whole thing is new to me.
Well, you have not only the bidding community, but you have the Shape the Podcast community.
That's awesome.
Because we're some of my viewers don't know anything about the bidding community whatsoever.
Okay.
Right? And I try not to put this all into the bidding community.
Right.
But I tell you, the bidding community is great. Right. So thank you, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank the missus for me too. I know
I appreciate it. But yeah, guys, I'll put the link to the donation page and the Shape the Podcast page, and you can donate to that. Again, thank you, PJ, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for being that light. That thank you for being kindness in this world of negativity. I truly appreciate it. We'll talk later, sir. Have a great night. Yes.
God bless you guys.
Thank you. Man, what an awesome episode. Again, as Andrew Matson said, another great interview. Thank you. Really, thank you guys. I mean, I say it every week. I not only did this podcast because I need it in my life, but I did this podcast because I wanted people to know that we're all human, and no matter what we're going through in our lives, whether what we think it's silly or not, we can make those changes to become a better person, and that's it. So I'll leave y'all. I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. Do something kind, like do something for somebody else. I don't care if it's buying somebody a meal, or giving somebody a ride, or going to a bridge competition, which I will be doing tomorrow, and help raising money for charity. Don't sit still, if that makes any sense. Don't sit in the wallows of wishing that everything could be better, because if you don't do anything to make things better, then things won't be better. All right. By the way, if any of you are in Don Wayne's neck of the woods, they're collecting cans, right, food for those in need. I saw his thing on Facebook today, and I'm sure that most of the postal services around where you live are going to be doing that. So watch out for that. That's an easy way for us to give back to those less fortunate, is by doing that. But yeah, I'll see y'all in 2 weeks for another great episode of Shape the Podcast. Enjoy your night. Yes. Oh, yes. Don says it is nationwide. So, yes, it's nationwide on May the 11th, or it goes to May the 11th, Don. Either way, if you see your postal man, postal woman, leave food for your carriers. They'll take it to whatever food bank that they have in their communities. Let's help those who are less fortunate than ourselves. All right. Again, I'll see y'all in 2 weeks. All right, for another great episode of Shape the Podcast, which may or may not be live. It just depends on my work schedule. All right. But have a great night, everybody.